So now we're going to do a live broadcast, which is fairly simple. And as we go into the live tab for the first time, it'll ask you whether or not you want to give it access to the microphone and or webcam that are connected. And typically, obviously, you want to say allow. I should note that in addition to webcams and other similar types of video cameras and so forth, you can also use external hardware and software which very nicely are enabled with the system to daisy chain and will all show up under this live casters area when you're broadcasting. What that means is that you can use things like Wirecast, you can use the Nutex TriCaster, you can use Adobe's free Flash Media Encoder Live, all of which give you different sets of functionality. And on the back end, this turns it all into a broadcast network where you can have affiliates and other channels underneath you, all of which can be aggregated, tracked, billed, advertised across, and so forth very efficiently with this back end. So you're not limited to a whatever the quality and capabilities are of your computer and webcam. You can use whatever you want, and it's very transparent with the system. So anyway, the first thing you note is that you have these three new tabs. Livecasters show all of the current live broadcasters, which this system you can have an unlimited number of both cameras and sources going at the same time and switch between them. You also have the ability to set up your broadcast general information, for example, the name you want to associate it with, and I'm going to say live stream demo 1 and title demo broadcast 1. Don't worry about the remote path, that's handled in this system for you automatically. This gives you the flexibility to override the basic back-end settings, but don't worry about that. Like I said, no matter what you put in, you're not going to break the system the way it's set up for you currently. Time limit is if you want to have a countdown timer enabled, maximum duration for your broadcast. Generally, you can set it to whatever you want. Turn it off if you're not going to use it, and it's as simple as that. And the video format is handled for you automatically. Since this is multicast enabled, depending upon what your license is, the optimal format is all handled in the background for you. On the output side, this is something that you'll generally set on a per broadcast basis. You're going to want video and audio usually. Override audio is for dubbing, and that's for e-learning and typical things like that. You might want to use that or not. And then record, what that means is if it's a live broadcast and you want to be able to reuse it as an on-demand piece to show up automatically in the media tab under all media after the broadcast is over, you would check this. Allow DVR is a very useful feature, and you can turn it on or off depending upon what your needs are. But what that allows is the viewer to either pause or not be able to pause and rewind and so forth the live broadcast. If they need to take a break, step away to get a drink or whatever, they can pause it and then come back and continue where they left off. You can either enable it or not, as I said, but it's nice to have that capability. And then finally, your next tab is the video settings. And if you had multiple cameras hooked up to this particular machine, you would have them show up here, or external hardware. Same thing with the audio input. Your aspect ratio, whether it's standard size or letterbox widescreen, 16:9, that goes in here. You can set your video aspect ratio, your size of the video, and your quality. 80 to 90 is typically a good number. And then your audio, you can have anything from spoken word quality all the way up to CD quality, 44 kilohertz. And your mic gain is to compensate for differences of your local device, your microphone, to get your levels where you want them to be. And you can simply test that by doing a simple test live broadcast, which I'll show you in a minute. And finally, frames per second. Typically 15 to 30 are the most common, and you can set it for whatever you want. I'm going to set it back up to 30 for now, and you can, like I said, set it wherever you need to. And like everything in nature, there's always trade-offs. The higher the size is that you put, you may initially want to jack everything up to the highest quality, highest size, but that also can limit you in terms of what the end user is capable of playing back in terms of both bandwidth and his computer's capability. Also, most of the time people do not watch their video on their computer full screen. Even if they're dedicated to the one video they're watching and they're not multitasking, still people like to watch typically 320 by 240 to 640 by 480. Those are the common sizes, or somewhere in between. And we do allow you to go full screen as well, but generally it's more common, especially with the ability to do chat and other things that they will in most broadcasts, that you're not going to be going full screen for them. So we'll just leave it where the default is for now. And finally is the chat tab. And by the way, all the settings that we put in, wherever we change them in real time, they're all managed for you and all executed. So you don't have to hit save or whatever. And you can change these settings at any time during the broadcast as well. Okay, so let's go to the viewer side so we can see the complete channel going back and forth with the communication. And if you notice that we have the chat opened up through this panel here on the viewer side. Again, they can close it and open it using these buttons here. On this one here is the close, which will restore the entire video. And if you go to this book icon again, it'll bring back the chat. And on the broadcaster side, they have the chat as well. Currently, the chat on the viewer side, the person is set to Frank, but it could be Joe, it could be anything, and they can change it by just entering it and hitting update. And then whatever they type in will go as the name is set back and forth with that as the title for the person. Pretty simple. On the administrator side, though, there is an additional set of functionality which the viewer doesn't have, and that relates to being able to clear the history, switch modes between it, load prior history. If you want to be able to save multiple communications that have gone back and forth, you can do that. You also have the ability to set general preferences, whether you want to save history or not, show alerts, filter particular words, and things, all the common features that are commonly done in chat. You also have the ability to send images back and forth, screen captures, and all kinds of other useful things. And finally, you also have the ability to toggle a draw mode, which can be very simple or it can be more elaborate. So between the two of them, obviously, you have the ability to do whatever you. I'm keeping this little window small, but obviously you can make it larger, and you can also plug in our more elaborate, more advanced chat and e-learning and corporate communications modules, which include things like video whiteboarding even. We also have the ability to do capturing of the correspondence of live snapshots of video and graphical snapshots and so forth during the session. So it can get pretty elaborate with private breakout rooms and all of that. But generally, this chat module is the one used by most people and has the most common set of features that are useful. In addition, if somebody becomes difficult within a session, you can ban the particular user. You can also kick them, which means to ban for a limited period of time. And it's a common set of features that most people wind up using. The kick, obviously, when you kick somebody, the connection is severed for them, and then they can reconnect when it's appropriate. See, the kick time here is set to 1 minute, so it waits until that time is expired, and then we'll allow them to come back in. A ban is a more permanent thing, and it adds them to the banned users list. And until the administrator sets them as not banned, they're not allowed to come on. So, like I said, the administrator has a lot of additional functionality that the end viewer doesn't have. Okay, so now that a minute has gone by, the viewer is being brought back on, and I'm going to just set it to the video only mode. And now we're going to start broadcasting. And by the way, as soon as I start broadcasting, I'm going to turn off the audio for the microphone, which is basically just my audio feedback button on the Mac, same on the PC. And what that means is if I have the audio of the viewer and the administrator, basically both sides of the channel, playing back on one computer, it's going to create a feedback loop. And it gets pretty loud and out of control very quickly. Obviously, that is not meant to be done. You're either a broadcaster or you're a viewer. And you don't typically do both on the same machine. And if you do, you run into those audio feedback problems. It's like if somebody calls in on a radio show and they tell them to turn down your radio because you're causing problems for all the other people trying to listen. So it's the same sort of concept. Anyway, so I'm going to hit the broadcast, and now I'm going to turn off my audio on my broadcasting side. So the recorded part of this video will be just audio only. And by the way, when I click it again, back and forth, I'm starting and stopping. I'm creating actually new broadcasts with each one of those. We typically just will do one broadcast for a particular session, but you can break it up into multiple ones if you want. And now that the broadcast is stopped, it goes back to the tone bars or these empty bars that the user sees, and obviously the confidence monitor. If I go back to the just the administrator's view of everything, you see that this is what the user would see up top, just these empty bars. So anyway, that's how a broadcast works in terms of the live, and because we set record, we'll see that we get the live stream demo 1. It's only 7 seconds long, but that was the what we just created. And anything that has to be processed, because we can actually reprocess audio and video if we wanted to, would happen through this tab. But naturally, when you do normally when you do the broadcast and you set it to record, it will automatically, within a few seconds of latency, when it gets moved over, go into this area. And that's basically it for a live broadcast.